Hello, hi guys. Today is the 5th of June and it is day 77 of lockdown. So yeah, been at this ages now, and it's not getting any less weird.
It's not getting any less weird.
The real world's still insane. God, I don't even know where to start. So much to deconstruct going on in the world, but no new sort of developments really. Obviously, it's just the rumbling on of the government being shit at this, and essentially war starting but civil war starting in the US, it seems. Donald Trump doubling down, as you'd expect. Not a hint of sort of trying to appease people or do anything to sort of make this calmer, anything to de-escalate it. In fact, today in a speech regarding the fact that sort of unemployment figures are declining and a few other things sort of that he considers to be a success, he decided to invoke George Floyd's name and say that I'm sure he's looking down thinking he's really glad of what's going on down here. It's a really good day.
It's
like,
insane.
How tone deaf do you have to be? Like, just thinking, do you know what? I could just not mention that guy that people are rioting about, and I've been sort of ordering to like use lethal force, basically. People have been rioting. People like he's ordered the National Guard to use rubber bullets and tear gas, etc., etc. Maybe I won't use the name of the man who these riots would. The death of this man triggered these riots. These people are angry. Maybe I won't mention his name to forward my own agenda, like a day after everybody kicked off at me for basically tear gassing my own people off the lawn for a photo op.
If you wrote a story or a script about a fictional president and you had them say that, do that, you would scrap it, wouldn't you? Go, that is implausible. That is not
it's
something
too much of a thing a supervillain would do. An actual president. People wouldn't let a president say something like that.
The actual president in the real world, guys. It's weird.
Yeah, it's absolutely baffling. I was personally quite shocked. Oh, I've just realised the light that I normally have on for these is not on. Does that make a difference?
It's better, probably.
Probably better. A guy I know in the real world. I haven't actually met him. He's American, but I met him on a game that I was playing, a mobile phone game, a few years ago. When he and I both decided to stop playing the game, we switched Facebook accounts so that we could stay in touch because we were friendly. And I've been friends with him for years. Turns out I posted something on my Facebook page yesterday, which was critical of Trump, which was about, I talked about it in the blog yesterday, and I posted it in yesterday's blurb, but the article regarding what the Reverend of the Church of St. John made of all of this yesterday. And I put it with the tagline this man is in so many ways the actual worst. And that smoked him out. I didn't know he was a Trump supporter. And quite a fervent one. So all of I should have been playing Trump supporter bingo because all of the usual bullshit came out. Fake news came out. The Democrats spreading lies to further their evil agenda. All this bullshit. But yeah, all lives matter was thrown in there for good measure. Just insane. And the thing that sort of is worrying me is obviously things are very heightened at the moment, and people are both ends of the spectrum are feeling very triggered, basically, and everything's really at the surface, and it doesn't take much to sort of kick off. But what I would have thought global Black Lives Matter protests and riots would do would make some people with racist views think, oh, maybe now's not the time to say racist shit. But actually, if anything, they seem emboldened.
Really doubling down.
And just so the priorities being the destruction of property isn't called for, and this is not the way to do it, guys. It's like, okay, then do tell us, middle-class white man.
How would you
what is
solve
the way to
racism?
do it?
So that police stop killing you
Well,
just based on the colour of your race. You know, it's not.
This
quite
particular
important,
chap
isn't it?
used the phrase, these thugs are just destroying people's lives and property for no reason. I was like, for no reason? For no reason? Are you fucking kidding me?
Have you been paying attention?
No, clearly not. So yeah, that blew my fucking mind.
Do you know what though? I see this a lot on people on social media and friends of mine and things, and they go, oh God, you know, people I thought was a friend, and I never knew how racist they were or how sexist they were, or that they were a rabid Trump supporter or a rabid sort of Tory, and not someone who voted for Donald Trump or someone who voted Conservative at the last election, but actually
supporter.
a rabid kind of, you know, lunatic, and,
Yeah.
you know, and someone you want to unfriend and go, I can't believe it, and then I wonder how often that happens the other way around, where the kind of
I didn't realise she was a lefty.
the ingrained Tories and sexists and racists and homophobes sort of see something that one of us has put on our profile and gone, oh God, I didn't realise they were a baseline, bare minimum, decent human being. Well, I don't want to associate with that sort of person. Someone who isn't a cunt. Right.
Well, actually, it's mad, like, because social media at the moment is a shitstorm, and it's not doing my mental health any favours, but I can't look away. I need to stay out of the comment section, and I need to just go, oh, Ellie, just don't. But I'm trying to sort of practice what I preach, and trying, where possible, to have a reasonable dialogue, rather than just going for the jugular and making it personal and calling people cunts, which it would be easy to do. I'm trying not to do that, and I'm trying to engage, and I'm trying to share information and that sort of thing, which is difficult to do because I've seen a few different people posting about this right now, and for people in our position, so white people in general basically, but sort of white middle class people particularly, I would say just the idea that you can go, oh, you're a racist, or oh, you've got right-wing views, oh, I don't like you, so I'm going to delete you, and then I don't ever have to deal with you. That's privilege. Being able to just go, oh, well, once I delete you, I don't have to deal with those sorts of views. But so actually, there's quite a few voices from people of colour saying, no, you're the people who need to talk to these people. And you need to be the ones educating these people, because they're not going to listen to us. And that's true. And obviously, like, the reflex action is, fuck, I don't want to have anything to do with you. And I don't really. I don't want to have to spend my time discussing, teaching people why these views are hideous and why people are angry right now. But yeah, it's absolutely baffling. There was somebody, a Black Lives Matter march has been organised for Newport. And so in one of there's a Newport Online sort of group chat where sort of share news stories and things like that. And so the details of that march were posted in there, and that smokes out a lot of fucktards. But yeah, there was another one that was just a petition for Black history to be taught in Welsh schools. Specifically Welsh Black history, not actually even global Black history, but sort of going back to like the Tiger Bay stuff and the docks, and because that was a real melting pot for cultures, and really played a huge part in the success of Cardiff as a city, absolutely built on people of colour, as is so often the case. But yeah, none of that's taught in school. So there was a petition just to include that in the Welsh curriculum, which seems reasonable. Welsh history, but specifically Welsh history of people of colour. Fair. That smokes them out. So this was in Newport Online. One guy just responded to this, oh, pathetic. I'm not following this group anymore. Just like, you've got problems, mate. But like, okay, the fact that you needed to say that, like, first of all, this isn't Heathrow, you don't need to announce your departure, just fuck off. But like, the fact that you feel so emboldened to say, oh, that seems it's a bit too much to do with people who aren't me. So I don't like it. So no, and pathetic. To call it pathetic that a whole group of people would like their own culture and their own history to be taught in schools when it is the history of the country they are born and raised in. I like the goal. The people, like, I can't understand why people don't have the sort of self-preservation and self-awareness to go, I think this, but lots of people don't like people thinking this. So to be a bit more closeted about it, to be sort of check that you're okay and check you're in a safe space amongst other racists before you start spewing this bile.
Hang on, Ellie, surely black people in Wales don't need to learn about their own history in schools. Surely they can just visit Big Pit like the rest of us. That's enough history, isn't it? That's enough history for anyone. Right.
I've never been to Big Pit.
I've never been to Big Pit.
I've been to St. Fagans fucking hundreds of times.
Oh, have you? I've only been to St. Fagans once.
Yeah. I kept being sent on school trips to St. Fagans.
Yeah, what had you done?
And I was just like, how is it like everybody, I was in some freak of planning, but you see, like, I went like twice in primary school. I think it's because I did too many extracurricular activities, so those groups would then go on school trips, and it was always St. Fagans, which, to be fair, it's actually a really good museum, but I'm so sick of it. So yeah, whenever they've got like visitors from other countries, and they're like, oh, where can we go to learn about Welsh history? It's like, St. Fagans. Fucking hell. Yeah, I swear to God. But never been to Big Pit. Ridiculous.
No.
So sorry, that's an entirely meaningless tangent, but yeah,
adds a bit of colour.
Adds a bit of colour, bit of levity. But yeah, I'm sick of St. Fagans. But to be fair, I haven't been for probably about 15 years, but I still don't want to go. I've been too many times. But yeah, it's just baffling to me that people like, well, actually, one part of it I've sort of unlocked is most people who are racist and hold racist views don't think they're racist. And to be fair, like, they sort of, I think they see racism in a very simplistic, oh, that means you hate black people. And yeah, that would be racist. But actually, it can be a lot more insidious and a lot more complicated. That just can be that you're making negative assumptions about some black people. That's still racist. You're making negative assumptions based on people's race. That's racist. Because there's another guy in a thread that's on 5 days old now. It's still going on. I was silently just lurking and watching for a while, but eventually I was just like, nope, I've got to weigh in. And it was quite brief, but it was just to say, like, dude, you need to be aware that this is not a good look. You're not coming across well here. He did not care for my opinion. But like, he's fervently saying, I'm not racist. My ex-girlfriend was black. But I'm not racist. But then spouts terrifying stuff, because people sort of say, like, people are quoting to him statistics that prove that black youths in America are much more likely to be stopped by the police. They're much more likely to go to prison for minor drug offences. And when you look at that compared to, say, Brock Turner, who actually did rape a woman, she was unconscious and he raped her, he got 6 months. And there's people doing 2 or 3 years for having a bit of weed on them.
Yeah,
and
well,
like that is, the system is fucked. The system is racist. Whether or not you think that that's down to something as simplistic as police officers don't like, because actually I don't even think the police officers necessarily don't like black people, but they're institutionally trained to stop and search people of certain demographics, and that includes particularly young black men. But
also,
yeah,
he's just not looking at analysing the data correctly, is he?
Well, he uses that data to vindicate his views that basically said, why do you think that's the case? Like, sort of spewing all these rhetorical questions that essentially the answer to them that he's trying to suggest without saying is, no, there are more black people in prison and there's a higher rate of black crime because black people are more likely to be bad people, is essentially what you're saying. And you're hiding behind, you're making statements like that and making suggestions like that, using your get out of jail free card of my ex-girlfriend was black, so I can't possibly be racist. It's like, no, you can like an individual black person and still hold racist views.
He's basically saying, look, I don't mind black people. I was willing to have sex with one. She was quite hot. But let's face it, a lot of them are wrong-uns. That's what he's saying.
Yeah, that is what he's saying.
And, well, a lot of everyone is wrong-uns. That's what I'm learning about the world. But,
but
I mean,
fucking hell.
There's so many things that go into, like, be it the fact that there's
We are
more
all-
socio-economic pressures
Yeah.
that mean that black people or groups in society
Quite a
might
lot of
be
it
in a
boils
situation
down
where they have less
to-
money and more likely
yeah,
to turn to crime.
Quite a lot
more
of it
likely
boils
to be
down to poverty,
persecuted
really.
when they
Black
do commit
communities
crimes.
tend to be less
It's-
affluent communities, and they
Yeah.
tend to have less well-funded schools, less sort of extracurricular activities, less funding for youth centres and things for young people to do. So, of course, that leads to sort of bad things happening. Anyway, that happens in all white communities. The poor communities will have a higher crime rate, and it just unfortunately, because of systemic racism, black communities tend to be poorer communities.
you could kind of
So of
flip
course
it.
you're going to have a higher crime rate, but it's entirely twisted. But even with those things taking into account, you still massively increase your chances of being stopped if you're black or of colour. If you're basically, it's people see a young black man and they think, oh shit, that's probably a criminal. And also, it's important to say, everybody, to an extent, will have some racist views because they're entrenched in society. There are assumptions that you'll make snap judgments. The thing you need to do is acknowledge when you're doing that and challenge yourself and try to realise why you're thinking that and look at to what lessons have you learned and try and unlearn them. But we've all got it in us, and actually, so saying I'm not racist and I'm not racist, well, okay, you hold some racist views and you should look at them. Why do you hold those views? And like challenge yourself, unlearn them, because it's all learned, it's all bullshit.
But I bet because of the same like socio-economic forces and things and the weight of kind of cultural history and baggage and everything, I bet, for example, there are probably more white people working like in the boardrooms of companies, for example, you know.
White men,
and
let's be honest.
White men, you know, so...
White straight men.
You could equally, you could flip the kind of logic and go, what is it about white people that they're so enamoured of tax evasion at a corporate level? You know, what is it about the white race that makes them behave like sex offenders
White
when they're
people do
when they're
love
CEOs
hoarding
of
money.
companies? Yeah.
White people have got a real thing for offshore tax havens. They really do. Actually, they really do. But it's you don't make those. Yeah, that's one of the main things is you don't make snap judgments about a white person based on the colour of their skin. But you do tend to make it, and the same goes for all people of colour, or people who are visibly displaying some sign of their religion or creed, any sort of anything like. So this obviously particularly happens to Muslim women wearing the hijab and things like that. It's just you make snap judgments on who that person is and what their life's like based on just outward appearance, which. Like, we learn in sort of year 4 in school about stereotypes and why they're not good. And yeah, everybody does. Everybody has stereotypical ideas. It's just look at why you think that, and maybe just look a bit deeper than, oh, that's just the way it is.
And that idea of going, well, I used to go out with a black person, therefore I can't be racist, is such a kind of, I can now say what I want because I've played my kind of...
You do not have a free pass.
I've not played my race card, I've played my race adjacent card. And I've used to sleep with a black person. Like, how many misogynists have you met that have had sex with women? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not proof of anything, is it? The number of awful sexist people who, you know, are attracted to women and have sex and relationships and marriages and have children
I can't hate women, I'm
and,
married to one. Yeah, but you treat her like a fucking... Like shit.
The mother of my child is a woman. Yeah, and you are horrible, and you treat them badly. It's
It's a flawed argument, and it's two-dimensional. It's lazy, and and the fact that you don't even have some sense of shame in saying it, of like, oh God, it's just that like I can't be racist. I've got black friends. It's like that doesn't mean you're not racist. It just means you've found some black people who don't hate you. Even they probably think you're a bit iffy. It's sort of like we keep banging on about it. So I will sort of give it a rest there. But yeah, just social media in general is a dumpster fire right now.
One more thing I want to mention on the subject, kind of the whole Black Lives Matter thing that is obviously still ongoing, is my friend Gerard shared an article from Buzzfeed that was just saying,
it was really good.
If you don't know what white privilege looks like, this is it. And it was just comparing and contrasting banners from Black Lives Matter protests
to the anti-lockdown protests a few weeks ago.
Yeah, the kind of reopen protests, and it's going from like
I looked at it. It's like a photo article, really. There's not a lot of writing about it. It's literally just look at this and look at this, and there were varying degrees of seriousness, but all of the Black Lives Matter placards are hard hitting. And valid points, and then you've got people on the other side holding up things like "I need a haircut."
It literally goes from
reopen the strip clubs.
Yeah, that was one of them. It goes from like stop killing us, like literally stop killing us, to reopen LA. I need a massage. And look, I don't want to downplay like the negative effects of lockdown. That it has had an effect on people's mental health. It has had an effect on people's incomes and businesses and jobs. And obviously that can be devastating, and it's not easy.
Not like, I understand the thinking behind it.
So I don't want to sound like we're just being flippant about like, well, lockdown's easy. What are you talking about? Like, it's really hard for a lot of people. But if you're in a position to go and protest lockdown, if that's what you want to do, and the message you want to get out there is I need a massage or a haircut, then you're not being affected by lockdown as dramatically as some other people, and that you are in a position of privilege, and just get a fucking grip, you know.
Sort of sprung out at me from that article. Two that got me quite emotionally. One was a compare and contrast still of they were almost all people of colour, but there were a few white faces amongst them. But protesters running away with tear gas in the background, and you can see that there are sort of projectiles being thrown at them and all sorts of. It's quite a stark image. Opposing that, there is a white armed man getting up in the face of an officer at the lockdown protest, and all of the officers are standing to attention and keeping their cool while an armed white man is screaming in their face.
And let's face it, screaming in someone's face, that's weaponised right now, isn't it?
God, yeah.
Spitting and breathing all over someone.
All of the police officers did have masks, but
we're supposed to be socially distanced and everything.
Yeah, that in itself is something that, we've seen footage of protesters who are kneeling and unarmed being attacked. That's happening. That is not happening to white protesters. There's things happening out there, and this is actually why white people need to be included and involved in these marches, because you can use your white privilege to protect black faces. There was a thing that came out in one of the riots today. I saw it today. It might have been over the last few days that the actual protests and riots were happening. But one of the things that was being shouted was when the police are getting aggy, they shouted "white shield," and the white people there would protect the black people, and immediately the police violence de-escalates. That is how you use your white privilege to advantage. Stand in the way.
That's insane, though, isn't it?
There's footage. There's a young black man leaning down. He's got his hands above his head, and there's police aiming at him with guns. And one black young lad walks forward with his hands in front, stands in front of him, and then a few other white guys do it, and then they all form a protective shield. Immediately, as soon as there's white men in front of them, the officers lower their guns. That's what's happening. There's footage of it. The police are less violent to white people. Not across the board, because some of them are still being violent to whoever. There has been footage of toddlers being tear gassed, accidentally, admittedly, but toddlers who just at wrong place, wrong time. Toddlers!
But you look at that, where the white guys are screaming in the faces of the policemen, and the policemen are standing there and they're maintaining the line. They're not,
They're keeping their cool.
They're keeping their cool, and that is an incredible level of professionalism and just kind of maintaining.
Why can't you do that
their
when...
restraint? Where does it then fall down to the point that they're then beating people in the street and sort of attacking?
Because all
black
of the
people?
defences is always heat of the moment and it was a pressurised situation in the heat of the moment. But it's like, well, either they both are or neither of them are. You can't use one and not the other. But yeah, we need to chill on that one. But there's so much out there. I will share that article, but there's so much to be absorbed right now. It is awful, it's difficult reading, but please keep doing it. Be informed as well as you can, and if you are white, you sharing the stuff and talking about the stuff gives you a platform that perhaps, but also it's not, and this is another thing, it's not up to people of colour to educate us. We should educate ourselves, because actually, that's another thing that I've seen, it's exhausting being like, if you're someone's black friend, and everyone's just like, oh, what do you think about this? What should I do about this? And it's like, well, it's not up to me to tell you. Like, just work it out. Google is your friend. Like, so yeah, just absorb what you can, share what you can. I worry about like sharing so much, and I get that little voice in the back of my head of like, what if there's a load of people out there being like, oh God, give it a rest. But I'm gonna keep at it because it's important, and yeah, I want it to be invading everybody's Facebook feed and people seeing this stuff and just being more aware of it. I do realise what I sound like. I am banging on, and it is from a place of white privilege, but I want to use that privilege for something positive if I can.
I think sometimes as well there can be a sense of like, oh, what good is it doing me sharing this article or this post, or is it really helpful? I don't feel like it's really making any difference. And, yeah, we would all love to have better solutions that make more of a difference faster at our fingertips. We don't have those, so it's better to do the things that we can do.
Yeah.
Even if they don't feel like we're doing very much, it's better to do those things than to do nothing.
Yeah, that's sometimes when the scale of a problem is so huge that you feel like I can't make a difference. Well, I guess if everybody thought that, then nobody makes a difference. But it can, in incremental changes, just do what you can. Is the best way I can look at it. And if everybody does what they can, change will happen. It might be gradual. It might not be overnight. But better to do something than just go, I can't make a difference, so I won't bother at all. Because silence, as I've said before, when there's an issue and it's essentially right versus wrong and you're sitting on the fence, then you're kind of taking the side of the oppressor by not saying anything, because your silence is tantamount to acceptance, because it can't be read as anything other than you're fine with it, because if you weren't fine with it you'd say something. So you have to say something. I
realise these are quite serious issues, but I keep getting distracted by a cat again.
Yeah, I could see just like, oh, the cat is so
I could
cute.
never be a newsreader, because the minute a cat came across my eye line, I would just be gone, wouldn't I?
Yeah, you would. I doubt there's too many cats in the newsrooms, but...
Oh, well, in which case I don't want to do it.
So, we're at like 28 and a half minutes, and we haven't talked about the UK that much. Well, I say that. These things are all happening here as well, but it's just sort of quite a lot of the news stories boil down to it's kicking off over in the States and it's overspilling to everywhere. But obviously it's
over here as well. But we haven't talked about other things that happen in the UK.
We haven't talked about coronavirus. So yeah, there's all sorts of shit going on. I've just realised that's not even the right page. I've been adding things on a few different things. Never mind. But yeah, there's one thing that I want to talk about, well, actually, there's a few things, but, oh, Jesus, it's all a bit heavy. Yeah, fuck it. It's essentially, the UK government is continuing to be shit at this. The Matt Hancock, my best friend, Matt Hancock, has come under fire from the UK statistics regulator for repeated, prolonged and sustained misuse of statistics to back up what he's trying to say. Essentially, it was a big and very hefty rebuke by them saying you are essentially deliberately misleading people with the misuse of statistics. For example, with using the number of tests sent out instead of the number of people tested, because most people who got postal tests got 2 tests, so they double counted those, which suggests they're testing more people. You see 100,000 tests, so you assume that's 100,000 patients. No, half of that could potentially be the number of people they were getting out to. So they were twisting the statistics to artificially inflate the number of tests done, which then gives an artificial suggestion of how many people are coming back, because then also you've got the number of positive tests. So it suggests that, let's say we've sent out 200,000 tests and we've only had 10,000 positive results. That means that hardly anyone gets this, and actually the infection rate is lower than it is. But that's a misuse of statistics, because it's not the number of people tested versus the number of people found positive. So they've basically been messing that up royally. They've been doing that for a long time. Across the board, most people seem to be saying that they've been manipulating the statistics to make themselves look better. Going with the death count, going with positive test results all across the board. And even with that, we are now, if you look at it in terms of deaths per million population, we're the worst in the world. We've got the highest proportion of deaths per million of COVID in the entire world. We're only second in total to the USA, which obviously has a vastly larger population. So we're doing absolutely terribly at this. So with that, and that's with the government figures that they've admitted. So with that in mind, all the people who are like conspiracy theorists out there saying, oh, they're making it look worse than it is. No, they're not. They're making it look better than it is, and we're still the worst in the world. It's like history will not look kindly on this. Keir Starmer has started to toughen up a little. He's still being very moderate and very calm, and it has a somewhat frustrating approach, because you kind of want him to go in and go in hard. But it is a clever approach, because he's just sort of just drip feeding the criticism and just sticking to the facts and keeping it very level. But he did do an article which was released in The Guardian, in which he said that Boris Johnson needs to get a grip, with the phrase he used, which I liked, and that whatever happens, the responsibility for what happens next with an incoming second wave is on Boris Johnson's shoulders, and he needs to take responsibility and pull his fucking socks up, really. And it's very critical. Boris Johnson naturally did not like that. And this was the same approach that he took in PMQs. Boris Johnson said essentially that Keir Starmer is undermining the public faith in the government by this constant criticism. That, firstly, dude, he's the leader of the opposition. That is literally his job, to hold you to account and to scrutinise your actions. And to dare suggest that the reason the public are losing faith in the government is because of what's being said at Prime Minister's Question Time, instead of your fucking actions, from the word go. Late lockdown, Dominic fucking Cummings not being sacked, wow. Fucking up the death statistics, having the worst death rate in the world. All of these things are the reason why the government, the public don't trust the government right now. It's not because the leader of the opposition is giving you a bit of a hard time, Boris.
That actually ties into an article I wanted to mention before we wrapped up.
Right, we'll have to wrap up quick.
Yes, by Liz Gerard in the New European, and it's called "The British People Are Being Played for Fools." And it's actually, a lot of the information in it won't be new to a lot of people who've been paying attention to what's been going on in the country and in the news, but it is a good, sort of accurate step-by-step recap of all the stupid things this government has done to do with this global pandemic, and all the ways they've tried to mislead or misinform us to try and make themselves look better.
I will share it in the blurb.
And I'm sure that is a list that will need updating again in a couple of weeks. But like I say, it's not new information to a lot of us, I'm sure. But I think
it's interesting when you've just got it starkly just
all in one
listed out,
place.
all in one place.
And I think that this, at some point, this government is going to stand for re-election, possibly with Boris still at the helm, possibly with Dominic Cummings' hand still in his arse. And, you know, it's good to be reminded and keep repeating these things and keep, you know, not allow ourselves or other people to forget all the mistakes that have been made so obviously and kind of avoidably and all of these things.
The fact that they've still got supporters baffles me. Literally, at some, like, what does he have to do for you to... The same goes with Trump supporters. Literally, like, any one of the terrible things Trump has done should be enough for you to think, okay, maybe he isn't that much of a stand-up guy. And
Boris Johnson keeps using the word world-beating when he talks about his tests and everything, and we're literally doing the worst in the world at this.
Oh yeah, on the day, like he said, he was proud of the way we've handled coronavirus. Like, why are you proud?
How badly would it have to be before he was ashamed or embarrassed?
But that goes for Boris. Say what you want, and hopefully some people will think it's true.
That's it. You just say the thing, and people go, "Oh yeah, he's doing a good job. We've got testing that are world-beating," and it's not. None of it's
true. Oh, right. So,
good,
right. Tell you what. Tomorrow we'll try and have a light one, unless something even worse happens tomorrow. We'll get a bit tiddly. We'll have a fun one. We will. Because this is getting ridiculous. It's just heavy times. But heavy times call for heavy bogs.
Motherfuckers. Like and subscribe.
So, like and subscribe. There's no shame in it.